Welcome to Thinner Peace in Menopause and Beyond. This is Dr. Deb Butler, Master Life and Weight Coach, and as always, your coach. Today is episode number 181. I'm going to do another live coaching session today, and it's all about the fear of gaining your weight back. You ever thought that before? Ever heard that before? Ever wondered about that? That's what this is about. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, how are you today? It's still summer here. That's all I can tell you. And you know what I did today? It was so much fun. Usually in between my coaching sessions, what I love to do is we have some beautiful woodsy trails out here that go along the river. And many times I'll take my walk out there and then I'll bring a chair in my car and go sit by the river. And many times my husband will come and meet me and we'll go hang out at the river and have a chat and be mindful with each other and mindful about nature. And it's really sort of romantic. And then sometimes what I'll do, like I did today, I brought my chair and I came and sat by myself. And that was also very romantic in the way that it was just me and me enjoying each other, which is like the most beautiful relationship of all, is a relationship that you have with yourself. And I really felt like today, not only did I need a walk, it was really hot and I got a really good sweat, but it felt good. But I also felt like I needed to sit and to think. And boy, did I come up with some really good ideas, which is what this podcast is about today. Because number one, I am going to do a coaching session with someone just like you who's a podcast listener who has really enjoyed my podcast and has learned so much. And she wrote me a letter recently, and I thought it would be so good to coach her that I asked her if she would come on. And guess what? Another brave soul said yes. So you're going to meet Lauren today. But before you meet her, what I'd love for you to do, number one, is I want to tell you a little bit about, I want to read you the letter that she wrote me. And I also want to tell you about something very exciting that I have coming up for you, because many of you ask about if I do anything with groups, so that for those of you who can't work with me individually, if you could still get coached with me. So I've created another class or a webinar, and it's going to be next month, October 22nd at noon Central, and it's going to be a really good, informative class, and I want to teach you about how to create a thinner peace mindset. And the reason that I'm talking about it now is because when you hear me with Lauren coaching her today, I want you to see the power of listening to somebody else being coached, because that's what this webinar is going to be like. I'm going to teach you some material, and then I'm going to do coaching with those of you who are brave enough to want to be coached about how you can create a thinner mindset for yourself and why you don't have it, because it's all in your head and it's all your thoughts and it's all about the model. So a couple months ago, I did a webinar on how to do the model and the key to everything. So I want to expound upon that in this webinar and teach you more about the model and how you can create your own thinner peace mindset. So if you're interested in this, I want you to go to drdebbutler.com/trust, TRUST, which is all about trusting yourself, because that's what this is all about. This whole process is about how to learn to trust yourself. So if you're interested in getting in on this class and this webinar, go to drdebbutler.com/trust, and you will be able to sign up there. Now, before I get into this coaching session with Lauren, I want to read you her letter first, and then you will hear me coach her. So here's the letter that she wrote me. Hi, Dr. Deb. I'm writing to thank you for the way that your podcast has truly changed my life. You guys, do you know how many times people say that to me? I'm interrupting the letter, but it really is. This work is life-changing. Everybody says it. It must be true. Okay, anyway, on I go. Of course, it changed my weight and relationship with food, but it certainly changed more than that in terms of my thinking. I had the pleasure of speaking to you a while back during a mini session. I wanted to follow up with you with more good news and a question that I'm hoping you have time to answer. Today, I saw my endocrinologist. I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is a thyroid problem. I have officially lost 30 pounds since my last visit a year ago. My original goal had been 20 pounds, so this is beyond what I could have imagined. I turn 50 tomorrow and weigh less than I did at my wedding 22 years ago. I have recommended your podcast to anyone who has asked me how I've lost weight. The doctor was amazed and asked me how I did it. I showed her your podcast and explained to her your teachings, and she wrote your podcast down so that she can recommend it to her patients. Hopefully, you will get some clients out of this. So here's my question. I got my blood work done to see if she needs to adjust my Synthroid. And as soon as she talked about possibly adjusting it, I could hear my crazy thoughts come in. Oh no, if they adjust my meds, I will gain all the weight back, and that sort of thing. I know that if they change the meds, that is just a C. And Lauren is very correct about that. But I could use some guidance around how to manage my thoughts around this possibility. I have been the same Synthroid dose for years, so the thoughts are flying fast and furious. Thank you so much. I found your podcast exactly when I needed it and truly appreciate you sharing your knowledge. Okay, so that's her letter. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get off so that you can listen to our coaching session. And I think you'll be amazed at how I ended up coaching her, because I think you can see from this letter that she has a fear around her weight. And I want you to see how I coach her on it. So enjoy the coaching session, and I'll pop back on the end and give you a few of my thoughts. Hello, Lauren, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Dr. Deb.
Hi, it's so nice to have you here. You are a brave soul. Do you feel nervous?
I do feel nervous. I definitely do. Yes.
Yeah, most people do. You know what? Even when I first get on and start recording, I feel a little nervous.
Okay, good.
So I think it's just the way it goes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think nerves are okay because that's just what happens. You know, sometimes we just get a little like, what's this going to be like?
Right. It's new for me to be on a podcast.
It's new for you. Yes, it's new for you. And it's always new for me when I record somebody new. So I don't really know how it's going to go either.
Well, I hope I don't disappoint you.
Well, that's an interesting thought, right?
Yes. Yes.
I hope I don't disappoint you. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's no way that you can disappoint me. So you don't have to worry about it.
Thank you.
All right. Because you excited me because you said, yes, I'll come on and you can coach me.
Right.
So this is what I want to share with people. I want you to share with people, like, because we've never worked together. You've just listened to my podcast and you've had a lot of great things happen to you from listening to my podcast, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
So I already read the letter to my listeners, but what I would love for you to talk about is just a little bit about where you were before you found my podcast, and then how it resonated with you and what you actually started doing. Because I think everybody hears different things and does different things and finds different ways to be successful with it. So I'd love to know what your process was.
Thank you. Well, I found you in December. So I think, like many of your listeners from what you've described, I have struggled. I just turned 50. So I would say thank you. Since I was about 30 when I had my first child, I struggled with the same, let's say 10 to 20 pounds, after having kids, and did the whole Weight Watchers thing and kind of up and down over the years. And in retrospect, had a lot of beliefs about why that was and what was happening. But sort of like your typical listeners, it wasn't always so high, but it was always on my mind. So even if it was 20 pounds, it felt like all I could think about. And then I started kind of hitting that perimenopausal zone where it really felt that nothing that I did worked.
Yeah.
And just, that's sort of like, I know I need to eat a salad and grilled chicken, but nothing seemed to move the scale. And then in September, or rather August of last year, my son left for college, which is always a really big transition.
That's
and at the same time, my daughter was a teenager. So the fall was just like, that sort of existential, who am I? And, all of that kind of thing. And my weight was creeping up. And I thought to myself, I cannot bring myself to go back to Weight Watchers or try another app or count another calorie. And so I literally started scrolling through the podcast app because I was kind of new to podcasts, and I scrolled through and I just did a search for, I think I searched for weight loss and menopause is probably what I was looking for. And I just stumbled upon your podcast and I started listening to the first one. And I really and truly, it felt like you were speaking directly to me. Like it felt like I had found you and you were just like singing my song and were speaking right to me. And so those first couple of podcasts where you talked about the physical hunger and the emotional hunger scale, I thought to myself, well, I'm going to listen to this and I'm just going to pay attention because I knew what I've been doing was no longer working. It wasn't working physically. It wasn't working, psychologically. So I, would put my headphones in and I just really started binge listening to your podcasts, and each one, would kind of teach me something a little bit new. But I started off by being patient with myself. Like in the beginning, I didn't even get on the scale. I just thought to myself, well, I'm just going to try this a totally different way. I'm going to listen to my body. And when you started talking about that, it was like such a light bulb, because I feel like the whole diet industry and just popular culture fully tells us not to listen to our body. Like all the everything kind of tells you like, oh, honey, you don't know what to do. Let me count your points for you. Let me, sell you this app to count your calories. So that kind of resonated with me. So, the changes that I started making in the beginning were just really those internal changes of, well, this week I'm going to pay attention to if I'm hungry. What does that feel like? And I spent weeks sort of being honest with myself going, I have no idea what my -2 is because I've spent 20 years not listening to it. And so instead of beating myself up over it, I would kind of hear your voice in my head saying, well, this is going to take some time. It's really kind of new, and so it would make me feel patient with myself that
which was different. Yes.
Totally different. It was totally different. And also for me, I think what resonated and was a huge learning curve, because now I've been at this for, I guess, 10 months. I would not, if you had asked me in November, I would not have described myself as an emotional eater. I would have said to you, no, that's ridiculous. I'm not an emotional eater because, I always ate really nutritious foods. I never was a binge eater. I know what to eat. And conceptually, I believed at the time that I knew the amount. Clearly, I didn't. But I did.
Yeah.
But I didn't know I was an emotional eater. And so,
what did you think you were? What did you think was going on?
I thought I was somebody that I had hypothyroid. So I thought, well, I don't, my thyroid is the problem, even though I was like medicated appropriately. I thought, well, a part of my belief was that I didn't have time to exercise. So I thought that because I wasn't going to the gym, that's why I couldn't lose weight, even though I was physically active, like in a healthy way, but I wasn't like going to the gym. So I believed that. I believed that I was just older, that like kind of a woe is me. I'm just somebody, other people can eat what they want, kind of that story.
Yes.
And in my family, my husband and my children are natural eaters. Like food is just food to them. So they, they eat when they're hungry and they stop when they're full, and it's like a nothing. And so I would already feel sorry for myself. So if I was, making dinner, if I was making, whatever, let's say I was making like whatever with some pasta, I would give myself like a little bit of pasta, and I would think to myself, which I didn't know I was thinking. I know that I'm thinking. Now I know that that's what I was.
What were you thinking?
I was thinking like, oh, poor me. They can eat whatever they want, and like, this is so sad, and
okay.
How come I can't? I don't fully know all the things that I was thinking.
That's a lot right there. That's a lot right there. And I think a lot of people can relate to that's where you were at, and probably had some kind of belief system around getting older and that you can't lose weight anymore.
Yes. I think I believed in the inevitability of it. Yes, that's exactly right. Because when you talked about how, when you're getting close to menopause or in menopause, the things that worked before don't work, and your body is like really trying to tell you something. You kind of said that so cleanly. And I thought, oh, Yeah, that's exactly right. Because in the past, when I would do the things and I would eat just the chicken and
When you would
broccoli or
do your
whatever,
tricks,
correct,
yeah.
it would work to an extent. And then when it wasn't working,
Working meaning that you could lose weight by
correct.
restricting your
Yes.
food for a while or doing
Yes.
whatever your little trick was. For
Correct.
me, it was
Right.
going
Not
back to Weight Watchers.
Yes, that's exactly right. So if I, started tracking my calories on the app, so I would do that. And then let's say, and this was previous thinking, like I was good, let's say for argument's sake, for 2 weeks, I would get on the scale, the needle wouldn't have moved, and I would have felt, well, oh my gosh, then I can't eat anything. And, what am I supposed to live on? And even
Mm-hmm.
the way I was thinking about the food that I was eating when I was like kind of doing my tricks, as you say, my narrative in my head was one of restriction and not of taking care of myself.
Yes.
It wasn't about me. You know what I mean? It was about the number on the scale.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't about, well, what makes my body feel good and how do I want to think about myself in the world and how do I want to take care of myself? And like your episodes, I've been in education for many years and, I've done a nice job with my children. And when you talked about how you would never do that to your child, like you had one episode and I think you were referring to your grandchildren and like what it took for your daughter to pack up for the day.
Yes.
And
Good memory.
yeah. So, I mean, I studied you, let me tell
Wow.
you. So my previous pattern was I kind of wouldn't eat anything all day. And then I'd get home and I would be starving. And so I would start snacking on whatever. And then I'd be making dinner and essentially eating dinner while I was making dinner and then sit down for another dinner. I was like already compulsive. I was already in like a deficit kind of thinking about the whole thing.
Yeah. And you were already eating when you weren't hungry.
Correct, because I had been starving.
That's right.
And so then I was full from nonsense and then sitting down to dinner because I wanted to eat dinner with my family. Like the whole pattern was off. And when you talked about, well, like you would never not feed your child because you said, oh, honey, I forgot today or we don't have time for that. Like however
Yes.
it was you phrased that.
Yes.
I was like, oh my God, like why? It was like this sort of sad recognition of how dramatically I had not been taking care of myself
Mm-hmm.
in the way that you would treat somebody that you love. Like, does that make sense?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. So tell me, fast forward a little bit and tell me where you are now.
So now I feel like I've been a thorough student of your podcast for 10 months. I went recently to my endocrinologist and I had been there a year ago. So this was just like hardcore objective data, like my scale number a year ago at that visit. And then just this past week, and I had lost 30 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind's eye, when I started, my sort of number that I was shooting for was, let's say 20, because probably I wasn't honest with myself about where I was to begin with. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I had never been lower than that since I was pre-having kids. So I don't even know if I would have thought it was possible. But it was so gradual. I guess my point, and I think for your listeners, because I know I liked listening to other people, it was so, so, so gradual. And it wasn't linear. So I'd go up a little. I started tracking my weight once a week once I got to a place where I wasn't afraid of the scale.
Well, that's really interesting. So was it hard for you to get on the scale?
At first it was.
Why was that?
Because I think in the past, when the number didn't reflect what I imagined I wanted it to be, I was hard on myself. And you had a bunch of episodes where you talked about data and like it's only the number and it's what you make it mean. And I thought, well, I'm going to just have to practice learning that. And I can't practice it if I don't do it. So
So you finally got on the scale.
Yeah, I finally got it. And then it was helpful data because, looking back on the past 10 months, I can see the trend and I can see that like your body really does fluctuate within, it's not a static thing. So it's the trend that matters and not, oh my God, in the past, if it went up when I was sort of dieting, if you will, if it went up, I would immediately feel hopeless and think, well, what's the point of this?
And then what would happen when you felt hopeless?
I would give up.
And do what?
And I would probably eat Cheez-Its because I didn't have
Right.
a glass of wine. Like, oh, you poor thing. You know, you've been
Exactly.
working so hard and it's not even worth it. And you talked about that, you know, with the scale and also like about the whole massive action. And I remember thinking, well, I'm going to just have to keep going and not have to in a negative way, but that's just how learning is, and that's okay. You know, but I had to learn. First of all, I had to learn what I was saying to myself. I had to learn how to listen to it, which took time. Then I had to learn how to say something new to myself in a way that was believable.
So what did you end up, what would you say was like one of the major thoughts you chose to think during this 10-month period that helped you lose that weight? I think this is a really important because most people just, you know what most people want me to ask you right now is, what did you do?
I know. And you know what's so fascinating about that? Now that I look like I've lost weight, because at first it's so gradual, it's not noticeable. When people ask, they want to know what I did. And
Right.
I say, I'm like, oh, it's what you think. So what did I think? I think that I thought to myself, what did I think?
Because probably you were getting on the scale and maybe it wasn't doing what you wanted it to do.
Totally. Yeah. I think I would hear in my voice, you know, I'm going to be kind to myself. One thing that I think I thought is that learning new things takes time.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I think I thought that a lot. Like, well, this is new. This is going to take some time. And this is
I love that.
Something new. And I think I would also think like, I don't know how I verbalized it exactly, but I'm really good at taking care of other people. Like if you ask anybody who knows me and loves me, like I'm great at it, you know? And I think I thought this is what I thought. Nobody's coming to save me. I have to do this myself.
Oh my gosh. I love that. Anybody that wants to use that thought.
Yes, no, that's what it is. Like in December when I started something new, and I think because I was unhappy just with missing my son and like that existential, I'm turning 50. Who am I if I'm not raising my children? All of that.
Which created a lot of negative emotion.
Yes. And I had this profound moment. Yes, I did. That was like, nobody's coming to save me. Like, you've got to do this. And that I returned to that. And like, not in a negative way, like nobody's coming to save me could sound negative, but in a power, like in a claiming your power.
It created power for you by thinking that thought.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah. And my guess is from that type of thinking, when you talk about massive action, because massive action, for people who don't know what you're talking about, massive action, when I say massive action, what I mean is you do whatever it takes till you get the result you want, however long, but you never stop doing things, right? You never give up. And if you never give up, you're going to get to where you want to go.
That's exactly right. And also, if you don't beat yourself up when you've not even made a mistake, like when it doesn't
I bet you
go,
did make mistakes though.
100%. Yeah. So like if there's a night where I'm like, well, I am going to have that extra glass of wine and pretzels, then
you did that, right? Like you did that and you still got to where you wanted to go because you were kind to yourself when you saw it. See, people think the opposite. Well, if I'm going to be kind to myself, you're just going to go and drink more wine and eat more pretzels.
No.
Tell me why tell me why you don't go ending up doing more of that.
So that's interesting because that's also been a process. It's like it started, you know, I would describe myself like when you talk about the 4 types of eating, my biggest issue, if you will, was fog.
And 90% of everybody that listens, that's what it is. So join the group. Okay.
So the first step is the awareness and then the whole urges. And I will say, even just this week, sometimes I see myself giving into the urge.
Yes.
And I can hear that internal conversation. And even in the moment, I probably am beating myself up a little bit. That next morning when I have my coffee, I'll write about it and I'll try and understand, well, what do I think I was thinking? I'm not always at the place where I can stop my thinking right at the moment.
You are absolutely right. So let me just say something about this because it's very, very important. I can't believe how great you coached yourself through this. Seriously.
Thank you. I'm a good student.
You are. Well, I mean, it's very difficult for some people to do this. So for people who are listening who can't do this, you can hire me. But all Lauren is saying is that the stuff is out there.
Right.
If you want to apply it and if you can, because what you're saying is that by not beating yourself up and sometimes watching yourself do what you don't want to be doing.
Yes.
That the next day or at a different time, you can go back and still learn from it.
Yes. And I would say that's still happening. There are
It
times,
still happens to me too.
yeah, I can see the urge and I can totally like sit with it and accept it.
Yes.
And then there are times that I can like it's like I'm watching myself make the choice, but I don't beat myself up. I don't blame it on the food. That's the other big change.
Love that.
Yes, that's the other big change. I used to believe like whatever, about the magic power of the food. And I would think I would sort of blame it or give it the power, if you will, and say like, well, it's because I started that I just couldn't stop or whatever, whatever I said to myself. Now I own it and I can see in that moment I made a choice and I can sort of reflect, why do I think that I made that choice? How might I be able to approach it the next time? Because if this is for life, it's absurd to think I'm going to always make the exact choice that's in exact alignment with the ultimate goal that I want. Like life's messier than that. So I do see it as an opportunity to learn and grow because
Thank you. That's exactly, you couldn't have said it better. It's when you find yourself doing things you don't want to be doing, if you're willing to learn from it, you will grow from it.
yeah, it's not always like in that exact moment,
It usually isn't in that moment. Tell me where I'm wrong.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think sometimes where I can be now is at least I can see it, whereas 7 months ago I couldn't see it. Yeah, I can see it and then I can learn the next day. And that's sort of how life is. And that's what I would say to anybody else that I loved who was, learning something new. I would say, oh, honey, like, well, you're learning that and that takes time. And yet we don't do that to ourselves. And when you talk about the neuroplasticity, I have more compassion with myself that, okay, well, if I was doing something a certain way for 30 years, and now, yes, I'm sort of proud of myself that it's 10 months. Well, 10 months is still a pretty short time compared to 20 years. So,
You're right.
cut myself some slack. So that's easier to keep going then because it's not, oh, look what you did.
I love that you said that. So the easiest way to keep going is to be kind to yourself as you're going. And that's the hardest thing for most people to do because they think that they're going to end up giving into more and more urges. And it's really the opposite, isn't it?
Yes, it's totally the opposite. And I think it takes practice to get to the place where you can even see that the previous way was unkind. Like that in it of itself is a journey.
That's
It's
a good
not
point.
always so obvious because like to your point, you think that the extra wine or you think that the piece of cake or whatever it is being kind. But it's the same way, like, when you're raising kids, my kids always gave me a hard time because I made them go to bed earlier than everybody. And I would say to them, like, oh, I don't care if you're mad at me, sweetheart. Like, I love you and this is what your body needs. Like it was irrelevant to me if they were upset about it when it was the right thing. So kindness also, like you talked about, kindness is honoring your commitments to yourself.
It's beautiful. Yes, you have absorbed this material. You're living it. And I can see it. So, okay. So here's what I want to ask you now, because where you are now is you've been through the journey. You have lost your weight by changing the way you think. Now you've just gone to your medical doctor and this is part of the letter and she wants to adjust your thyroid medication, which was the reason you sent me a letter. And the reason I want to coach you is because I want to coach you on what you think about the possible change of your thyroid medication, because this is going to be very valuable for anybody that's listening that's lost their weight or is in the midst of losing their weight and something happens. And you said it specifically in your letter that it's a C.
Yes, I totally do. Yes. And it's like, and I made it a word, I don't know, like a C plus, if you will, because I don't even know, I don't even know that she's changing it. You know what I mean? But like, because I had lost the weight, she just in passing made a comment like, oh, maybe we'll change your medication. Sometimes we need to do that. And I could see myself spinning out.
You saw yourself thinking thoughts that scared you.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Right. And so I think that this is a really valuable call because this is what's lurking, is that you still have some fear.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Right. So I want to know why.
Well, That's a really good question. And I won't say I don't know because I've listened to 180 of your podcasts.
Yeah. So why do you think you're afraid when you've just said all of these things of how you've changed so much of what's gone on in your brain so that what you're doing in your action line are things that you own because you've really changed your model, your thoughts, and your feelings? Okay. So what's happening is we have a new circumstance
Right.
about the possibility of changing your thyroid medication, but it could be any circumstance. It could be that you're going to Europe for a year. It could be that something happened to somebody. And
Well, I think my first thought is like, oh no, if she changes the meds, this will all go away because I'll go back to having a hard time. But I can recognize that that's irrational because the dosage that I was on, I've been on for, let's say, like 6 years. I mean, it could be even longer. And for that 5 years prior to these 10 months, I didn't lose weight while on it. So I can recognize that the dosage didn't have some magic power, but I think it still taps into that kind of past reality of, well, maybe this is too good to be true. And maybe.
And that's what I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
That thought right there. Because that thought is you're not certain that this is for life. And I want to ask you why. Because that thought is a problem.
That's an excellent question. So my gut reaction to that is because when we listen to people talk about losing weight, right? Like when we sort of.
What do we hear when people talk about losing weight? Tell me.
That they gain it back,
okay.
Right? That you lose weight doing XYZ and everybody gains it back.
Okay, so that's your thought because that's not a fact that everybody says that.
Right, true. That is true.
So everybody that's listening, we make up stuff in our head all the time and then we say we're reporting the news. I just want you to know that everybody that loses weight talks about gaining their weight back.
Right, that's right. Right, well, yeah, because I believe that, right? But but you're right that objectively that is not the truth.
But that's a thought. You actually have that thought.
Yes, I do have that thought.
And you're making it mean that you would be one of those people.
Right.
Yeah, tell me why you wouldn't be one of those people.
Well, I wouldn't be one of those people.
Tell me why you're never going to gain your weight back again.
Well, because all the things that I've been doing and thinking for the past 10 months have literally nothing to do with my thyroid medication dosage.
Oh, well, that's fascinating.
Right. So none of them have anything to do with that. And so if the dosage changes and I am honest and listen to my thoughts and listen to my physical hunger and eat fuel foods and, get fresh air and walk and continue doing the things that I'm doing, then a change in thyroid medication should ultimately have no impact. But even when I say that, there's a little part of me that doesn't believe it.
Okay, so what I want to correct for you is I don't even care if it's the thyroid medication. I think you have a thought about your weight loss, that you're going to gain your weight back because everybody that loses weight gains weight back.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Okay, so
but it's probably true that I hear that in my head, even that it's so fast that I don't know that I'm hearing
that.
Well,
the reason now I want everybody to hear this and see this. The reason it's so fast is because you think you're reporting a fact. You didn't catch it as a thought.
Right. That's exactly right.
Exactly.
Right, because that's why it's fast, because it's like I don't have to pay attention to it because, of course, that's true.
That's the news. I'm reporting the news. Everybody knows that. The sky is blue and everybody that loses weight gains their weight back. And I am going to be one of those people because I lost a lot of weight too. You didn't say all that, but that's how your little brain is going, is you're going to be part of that.
Right. And that's so sad because I've really worked so hard on thinking differently. So it's kind of sad to know it's still kind of lurking out there, at a just waiting for me.
Okay. So it's really not sad.
Okay. That's also a thought, right?
Yeah. And it's more to be expected. Okay. Don't be surprised by these things that come in. Oh my God, I must be doing something wrong. Where the heck did that come from?
Right.
I thought I had this down.
Right.
I'll tell you what, when you least expect it, the thought that you thought you'd never think again comes back.
I can see that.
Yeah. It's just the way it is. That's just the way the brain works. It's neuroplasticity. It's neural pathways. You had these neural pathways for years. Right. And so you're creating a lot of new neural pathways right now by all the things that we've heard you say, but they're pretty new. Right. So the only thing I think for you is exactly what you said to me about when you catch yourself giving into an urge and what you do the next day when you've given into an urge. You write about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the exact same thing you need to do with your thinking. When you catch a thought, you don't get hard on yourself. You go, oh, I didn't know. Of course you would come back.
So kind of greet it with the same curiosity.
Hello.
Hello, old friend.
As opposed to get the heck out of here. Where did you
Right.
come from? Because then you're resisting it and you're pushing it away and you're scaring yourself.
Well, and I'm also being hard on myself. Like I could hear it now that we're
Yes.
having this conversation. I'm being hard on myself even for having it. Like, oh, come on, you should know better already. You should know
Yes.
that's just a thought. Like,
Yes.
didn't you learn that already? Like I could hear
Yes.
it with you
Yes.
pointing it out. So if I greet it with the same, like, oh, there's that thought. Like you're wondering if you're going to gain it back. Then I could sort of write about that
Yes. You can see the thought and
and
for
see it
what
for
it
the
is.
circumstance.
Yeah, that it's not a fact.
Right.
It's just a thought that you have that does not serve you.
Right. And if I allow myself to sort of greet it with curiosity and sort of learn a new way around it, to sort of accept, oh, that's going to pop in, but I get to choose if I pay attention to it or not.
Absolutely. And then, like, because everybody's going to say, well, then, okay, well, let's change it. So before we change it, we see that it's here without trying to resist it or push it away. It's like, oh, okay, come on. Okay, I can see that really scares me. And that's okay. It's okay.
It really does take consistent self-compassion, I think.
I would say you are a student who has learned well because I don't know, how do I end my podcast for 180 episodes?
Be very, very kind to yourself.
Because it is the answer to everything.
I mean, it really is.
It really is. And we can see with you that as much as you've learned self-kindness, you got sad and a little mad when you saw that thought. Like,
Yes.
what the heck are you doing? Have I not talked to you? Have I
That's
not
right.
taught you?
Right.
What are you doing?
Right.
But now you know that the only thing you have to do for the rest of your life is become aware and know the difference between a thought and a circumstance and be able to see it.
I mean, that really is so empowering.
I know.
I mean, it really is. Like people don't realize like it's such a more empowering place to situate oneself.
Correct. And it's all you have to know is that if you've done all of this for 10 months, all you have to do is just keep doing the same thing for the rest of your life, which is checking in on your thoughts. It's just like what you do with an urge. You check in with it the next day and you see the thought, you see what it created, and you look at it and you do it with kindness.
Right. With kindness and a little curiosity and not,
That. Exactly. Not that.
Right.
Right. And I think that you couldn't have put it more beautifully than what you have said, because really the problem is not with your thyroid. The problem is with your mind. And the thyroid incident activated an old thought that you did not know was still there.
I really didn't. And that's
I know
why,
you didn't.
I wrote to you because I'm like, oh, this is so, I could kind of see it, but it was so automatic.
You knew something. You knew it was your thoughts and you knew it was creating negative emotion, but you didn't quite see the difference between the circumstance and the thought.
Right. And I think I didn't see the sort of larger behind the thought of, oh, I'm really just afraid of gaining my weight back. And so the thyroid was like the activator.
Exactly. And expect more of those.
And that's probably going to be a process.
It's going to be a process.
Yeah. And especially with the whole, like, this is probably the zone I'm going to be for the rest of my life. And so you don't have that payoff, if you will, of like the scale going down, which, although that's not even fair to say. But yeah, so this is just a constant learning about yourself, kind of using these opportunities to check in on how you're thinking and feeling about all kinds of things in your life.
It's everything, right? It's like it could be thyroid medication or it could be something totally different, and it's going to activate your mind, right? Because the circumstance is always neutral until it triggers a thought. And it's the thought in your brain that creates the emotion and the action and the result, right? And as long as you're afraid, you have fear about gaining your weight back, it's an invitation to have a look until you know that you won't.
And that probably just takes time, because all things take time.
All things take time, and when they come, don't be surprised.
Right.
Lauren, this was an educational moment for you. It was a pleasure to coach you. You have come so far, sweetheart. So far.
Well, thank you. I want to say, I really thank you, because the material that you put in your podcast, the references you make to other pieces of learning that, when you refer to something that I kind of took on and then read that thing, the material that you present is so helpful. And even like to go back and to listen to other podcasts, if there's a particular thing, it's so generous of you to help so many women really find their power and to frame it in a way that is just true. And it was a real gift to find you. And I tell everybody I know. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's a really gift to talk to you and to see how far this work goes. And also to realize there is so much suffering in this world with women and their weight that is not necessary. The letters that I get around weight is ridiculous and sad. So all of the podcasts that I do is in reference to that, to be able just to hear you and to realize that the power is within you and you created that for yourself off of my podcast. It's the best gift.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I really, truly, truly thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Okay. So I know it was amazing and it was really powerful, because that is the power of coaching in a group. You're the group and Lauren was the person being coached. And thousands of you got to hear that, and thousands of you got to readjust your brain off of that coaching session with her. I know that because I know the power that coaching has on other people. And that's why I want to keep encouraging you to sign up for this webinar where I'm going to teach you how to have a thinner piece mindset, right? I talked to you about it at the beginning. And I also want to show you with Lauren that she's still working on creating a thinner piece mindset because she's lost the weight. You can see that she's changed many of her thoughts, but she still believes that anybody that loses weight will gain their weight back. She couldn't even see that that was a thought. She thought that was a fact, that that's what happens. And she still believes that for herself, and it creates fear. And you could see by the way that I coached her that now she has an awareness of that thought and she can organically do something with it. Like, it wasn't my job to tell her what to think. My job was to show her that it was just a thought that was creating fear. And as long as she has fear surrounding her weight, it's not helpful. So listen, I hope you got a lot out of that group coaching, because that's a group coaching call. That's what it's like. And if you're interested, you can go to sign up for my webinar at drdebbutler.com/trust, where you can start learning how to trust yourself, just like I taught Lauren in this, is that she needs to be able to trust herself in the process that she's been going through, and to trust herself that she can continue. And of course, you know what she said many, many times. The key to the work is by being kind to yourself. And so, I can't end this podcast without saying, no matter what else you do this week, as Lauren so succinctly put it, be very, very, very kind to yourself. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
To get a free copy of Dr. Deb's companion workbook with all the tools, homeworks, and discussions that she uses in her podcast, With all of her private clients, please go to drdebbutler.com/change. This will make it even easier to follow along with her in future broadcasts.